Hi, Michael. Good morning to you. How are you?
Really looking forward to this conversation today.
Likewise, thank you so much, Michael, for saying yes to be interviewed today. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled You're Worthless. Read that again. The juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, I think when I read your profile, you were reaching out, and then I read it is actually about burnout. And one of the reasons why I started my podcast is because of the feelings of worthlessness that I felt because of burnout, both in my relationship and in my previous organizations that I was attached with. So, without further ado, let me introduce yourself to our listeners today, and then we can get right into our conversation. So, hey everyone, we have Michael Levitt here with us. Michael is the founder and Chief Burnout Officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network, a media firm dedicated to addressing burnout and improving workplace culture. Now, as a certified NLP and CBT therapist, he hosts the popular Breakfast Leadership Show podcast, ranked a top 20 global podcast on thought leadership by Thinkers 360, and ranked a top 25 California podcast on leadership by FeedSpot. Michael has authored books on burnout prevention. Now, Michael's expertise stems from his background in HR leadership and executive coaching, which now informs the impactful media content produced by his company. And the name of his book, 369 Days, How to Survive a Year of Worst Case Scenarios, and Burnout Proof, How to Establish Boundaries to Avoid Negativity of Stress. Wow, a lot to unpack, Michael. Welcome to the show.
Much.
Right. Okay. Now, I like to take our guest and my guests and our listeners a trip down memory lane. So, can you first share with us what was it like growing up as Michael Levitt?
Childhood, and I'm very fortunate to have one because I know a lot of people, when they reminisce about their childhood, it may not have been as pleasant, but mine, my parents did everything possible to uh, help could. We're ever going without, even though, talking with my parents later on in life, there was some financial struggles, but I wasn't aware of them and never felt the need of not being able to do things or get things that I wanted. I was very, very blessed to have the parents that I did and the upbringing I did because it gave me a great foundation, not just, having things that I enjoyed, but also the life lessons that I learned along the way, dynamics and the community that we lived in and all of that. It really has big help in me, being able to work with all kinds of different people all across the globe because I was thankfully immersed in communities that had a lot of different cultures, which was really, really good for me. I'm thankful of where I grew up and all the things that it provided.
Wow, sounds like you had an awesome childhood. So, tell us then, what is your backstory and what is led you to explore this topic of burnout or maybe having experienced it yourself?
Definitely experienced burnout, which definitely changed the direction of my career and life back in 2007. So 15 or so years ago, actually a little bit longer than that now. But I was hired as a healthcare executive, and I had a lot of startup experience working for a lot of different companies, but not in healthcare. So it was a big learning curve for me to learn how to run a healthcare clinic. Uh, my experience with healthcare was as a user going to the doctor every once in a while, getting checked up and whatnot, but in a clinic. So there was a lot of learning to do it. Plus, it was a new clinic. So there was a lot of hiring, recruiting, navigation of clinic relocation, uh, demonstrating the community why our clinic was better than the long-standing clinic that was in town. So just a lot of work. And I literally put tons and tons of hours into my work. Even though I was an employee, I treated the company as if it was my own, which, while a noble cause, probably wasn't the best decision on my part because I didn't have boundaries around when I worked and when I didn't. So 2 solid years, I was pretty much working from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. And that took a huge, huge toll on me, both mentally and also physically, where You fast forward 2 years to 2009, I had what I like to refer to as my year of worst case scenarios. So over a period of a year, so from May 2009 to May 2010, I had a heart attack that should have killed me. I lost my job during the Great Recession in the U.S. Later, I lost my car. My car was repossessed because when you're unemployed, you don't have a job, and you're in a depressed job market. You have so much money coming in to cover your food expenses, and plus, I was on heart medication that was costing me $1,000 a month out of pocket, and I didn't have any drug insurance coverage. So, choices: do I eat and have medicine to keep me alive and feed the family, or drive this car? And the bank, and I'm not mad at the bank at all. Uh, you know, we had an agreement. I gave them money back. They give me a loan to buy a vehicle. I didn't pay them back, so they went, well, we're going to take the vehicle. Not mad at them. Never have been. After that, ended up relocating to an area, Toronto. Had a lot of opportunities because Toronto's one of those interesting cities that call it recession proof, but it's pretty close because there's a variety of different sectors that are based in this area. And if there's a let's say there's industries that are suffering and others are thriving, you're always going to be able to find something, great community to relocate to. But after doing that and getting ready to sell our house, the bank decided, well, we're just gonna take it from you. So, my house was foreclosed. So heart attack, job loss, car repossession, home foreclosure, all in a year. And all those things happen to me because, all those things may not be the right word, but
You
other
tell me,
words,
yeah.
there's some other words that you probably use, but it's happened because I was burned out. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was making mistakes at work, wasn't eating right, wasn't getting any physical activity. So all of the poster child of and decisions all created this perfect storm of a year for me. And after all of that happened, and I know a lot of people that are burning out or overwhelmed with stress are experiencing some of those things, or those things are literally around the corner for them, and it stresses them out. Because here's the real that bugs most about burnout and prolonged stress is burned out and you're stressed, chance that you could make mistakes at work or you lose your job, or maybe there's an economic downturn and you're afraid of losing your job. Stressing, which then makes you make mistakes, which means your employer is going to have easier time to let you go because you're not doing your job right. So the stress is actually manifesting what you don't want. If you're afraid of losing your job and you're just constantly worrying, you're
Yes.
actually manifesting, and I've seen this happen personally and with others, you end up manifesting,
The thing that you're scared of the most is
Yeah.
actually the thing that you're gonna attract that into your life. Yeah.
it's like worrying. I'm
totally
worrying
vouch for
about
that.
this. It's,
Yeah.
for people that are of faith, prayer and whatnot, it's like worrying is kind of like praying for those things to happen. So
To happen.
It-
Yeah.
you see it time and time again, and it's frustrating. And I know it's really hard for people to kind of break out of that because they feel stuck. I know that feeling. I've been through that. I know how to get unstuck. It's than you think. A lot of it boils down to your mindset and some adjustments. Now, in my personal situation, I made the choice, okay, that version of Mike that had that wonderful year, never want to be that version again.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. It was a horrible,
I
horrible
know.
year. Horrible.
Yo,
But
Yeah.
I never
you
want
don't
to
want to
go
wish
back
that
to that.
upon anybody. Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a terrible year for everybody involved, including myself. So do that again. So for me, I thought, all right, what am I going to do? Am I going to different parts of my life and like, I'll make a change here, change there, but the rest of the time I'm just going to be myself. Personally, I decided to completely reinvent me. And that's not easy to do, but the choice that I made. That again, so I would much rather just completely revamp everything
Clean
about me.
slate.
Tabula rasa, clean slate, empty empty that junk drawer, empty it all out, and just
Clear
start.
the cache.
Yeah, just all the catchphrases. I decided to do that. Now, uh, I want to give people some hope here. 90% of people do not need to do that. They don't need to just completely change who they are, because maybe you really like who you are, which I hope that you do, because we don't spend any more time with anybody else on this planet besides ourselves. Probably love yourself as much as you can, or at least tolerate yourself. Hopefully learn how to love yourself, because the world needs you to love yourself, because if you are yourself, that means you are doing things better. You're creating more things. You're being a better human being, which the world needs that. So love yourself. If you don't know how to, there's many approaches to it. Happy to chat with people on ideas and things that they can bounce around to try to improve their own self-image and their self-worth. Going back to your show, people feel unworthy of themselves, and that I do when I'm working with teams or individuals on kind of going inside and looking within, going, okay, why did we burn out? The royal we, of course. Do not like looking within. It's a scary,
It's the
scary
one
question.
thing. Oh yeah, it is.
It's like, wait a minute, your time with you. Why are you afraid to look in? Afraid to see? It's like, why are you afraid of that? And it comes down to self-judgment, self-sabotage, all the things that humans love to do to themselves. And it's unfortunate, because find yourself, hey, look, I'm doing really, really good based on all the things that are going on externally. What do I need to do to make sure that I have everything I need to do to be able to navigate through all the nonsense and the chaos that the world always seems to find itself in? There's ways to calm yourself and not be deeply impacted by those things. Again, depending on what part of the world you happen to be in, or torn area, or there's things going on, said than done, but you can still be within yourself and in life that you want to do in life to the best of your ability, and not be stressed about external things that you can't impact, but you can impact how you see things, how you feel about things. Do that. It helps reduce stress. And that's what burnout is. Burnout is prolonged stress. You have prolonged unaddressed stress, then it can turn into burnout. And obviously in my situation, that's what happened. And again, don't ever want to go down that road again. And I don't want people to do that either.
Wow. Well, you gave the whole rundown of your life, and I love it. So many things, so many questions that popped in my head when you were sharing your story. So, and you mentioned burnout is a prolonged stress, right? So, in that point, in the 2 years of your life, when did you realize, or had you, now that I'm sure that you stepped out of it, and then you looked into it and you had reflected on it, right? So at which point did you wish that you had taken action or actions regarding your... Hi, I'm Nierras, your host of the Your Worthless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now. Situation.
Obviously, looking back, I wish I would have made this a lot differently, especially when I started the role. I should have established this is when I'm working, this is when I'm not, and a proactive board of directors. I reported to a board and board president that was probably, I can't speak to it, and he can't speak to it because he's no longer alive. So, I be respectful, because I don't know, but my hunch is, knowing the other board members, obviously very passionate about the work, was not to, hey, let's burn out Mike to the point where he nearly dies.
Yeah.
That was not on
Yeah.
the board agenda for that day. I know it wasn't. There was a combination of things that created this, and this is what It's hard for people to do it if they're in a job already and they want to try to establish boundaries after they've already started. It's true to do it. Still do it, and you should. But for me, I missed the opportunity of saying, okay, this is when I'm working and this is when I'm not. So after that role, and when I was hired at a new organization, and every organization since that I ever worked for, or even, the client work that I do now or anything else, I established, okay, this is when I'm available. This is when I'm not. And you really make it there. That's the rules. If there's some leeway, maybe, depending on situations, but if it becomes a situation where it's like, well, we always see you on that, and like, goodbye, I'm not going to do it. It's not worth it to me.
That's right.
Unfortunately, a lot of organizations that take advantage of that, and the people aren't fighting back because they need the job, they have the mortgage
Yeah.
payment, they got the car payment, they've got, the activities that their children are enrolled in. All these pressures that we pile onto ourselves makes it harder and harder to be able to do things. And there's a lot to be said about simplifying your life. And a lot of people's lives are really complex.
Because they made it complex.
Exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, in the US and, across the world, there's, subscription TV services. So you've got all the services, and like, well, have no money. It's like, okay, well, what are you spending it on?
What can you cut back on?
Let's take a look and see your spending. And I don't tell people to cut back. I just put it, because usually people
Like,
they don't
put
see
it
it.
to their face and then and
Yeah, here's this.
evaluate.
Yeah, you are
Yeah.
spending $350 a month on subscription services. You've got your this, or even in the business, I do it myself. It's like, okay, what am I spending on? And you look at it and go, okay, am I using that service? Is that something that's beneficial for me? If it is, then yes, it stays. If it's not, well, I can say, and I can always resubscribe if I'm going to allocate the time to it. And I find this all the time, because like, oh, that looks like a cool tool, and I'll use it for a while, and I'll stop, and I'm like, why am I paying for this service? I'm not using it right now. Let's cancel it. You can always sign up for it. Rarely is there a service that says, no, we do not want your money anymore. You don't have to worry about that. I think that's an exercise you should do, no matter whether your business or even your individual. You're like, okay, yes, I've got all of these bills. What can I do? Not to necessarily cut back, which is good for you to, be on top of, how you spend your money. Look at it and go, okay, what's important to me? And then you look at what you're spending your money on. It's like, if it's important to you and it's giving you joy and fulfillment to utilize that service, or go get that cup of coffee, or have lunch wherever you have lunch, if joy and fulfillment, you can to keep doing it. Because then, this is one of the exercises that I did early on, is, once your income drops, you literally have no choice. You have to cut things out. And
Yeah.
feel is one of the feelings that I felt. And I was angry that I couldn't go out and do this, or I couldn't buy this.
I
And
totally get that.
once the revenue starts coming back in, this people, not everybody, but there's this thing, well, I need to catch up. I wasn't able to buy those things now. Now I'm going to buy them all the time. And next thing you know, you're buying all of this stuff, and you go,
The
do I
latest gadget.
why do I need all of these things? Why do I need the brand new whatever smartphone you use, when mine that is 2 years old works? The operating system still gets updated. Okay, it doesn't have this bell and whistle. Oh no. It's like, do you use that bell and whistle? It, that fear of missing out. It's like, oh, you have to use this, this. It's like, if you don't use that anyway, and it doesn't add anything to your life right now, I know the Apples and the Samsungs of the world don't want to hear me say that, but
Uh-huh.
need the brand new latest phone, unless your work or your personal life would be dramatically.
Demands. Yeah.
My phone is a couple years old.
I just need, yeah, I got this back in 2019. This is 11 Pro Max. I got this back in 2019. and I've used it for 5 years now. I brought it to the US. I took great pictures with it, and it's still working fine. And I love my pictures. I mean,
I used an iPhone 7 for
wow.
finally upgraded it when the 12 came out because it was like, okay. And it was actually, I converted my brother who was so dead set against Apple phones. And there's a lot of people that are like really polarizing, passionate.
Yeah,
In the US, it'd be like the Trump versus Harris type of polarization.
exactly.
It's like, there's no way I will ever use this. And
It's a disgrace.
6 years into using the phone, he's looking at it going, is that still working? I'm like, yeah. How's the battery life?
Yeah.
So it's not bad. I mean, there was a recall on the battery because there was a problem with
Uh-huh.
the battery. So itself was only like 3 years old. So I have to charge it every night, but it's not running out of gas in the middle of the
Mm-hmm.
day. It converted him because in that time he had gone through 3 Android phones because the life of them wasn't good on how he was using it. So, he switched to, the iPhone and hasn't looked back. And, yeah, I'm sure there's some.
Apple should hear this and give incentives to people who manage to convert them to,
I would be
Apple
more than
users.
happy for Apple to give me the brand new.
Endorsement, yeah.
No, I don't need endorsement. Just give me a brand new iPhone 16
Oh
Pro
yeah, that's
Max.
true.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You go with the biggest and the largest people. It's just like it was the comedian / host of everything, Steve Harvey, loves to say and he talks about flying first class. Obviously
Oh yeah.
he's worked his tail off in his life. Anybody that says, well, he has all this, is like, that man has worked his tail off and slept on couches and cars. So anything that he does from a business standpoint is because he's put the time and effort into it. So, but he said, he recommends everyone should fly first class.
First class, because yeah.
Once you do that, the next time you have to go sit in coach, you are going to be so mad and uncomfortable. And does it cost more? Of course it does. But guess what? You plan accordingly. And I have a flight, coming up in December.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'm only going to be on the plane for like an hour. Like I'm flying first class. Why? Because it's comfortable. I'm like, I'm doing it.
And you feel good, right? Because when you feel good inside, it's reflected in your reality. I truly believe that.
If everybody does that mentality, then get plane tickets, or they're going to have to reconfigure the planes where all the seats are first class, which wouldn't be a bad idea. It's what's important. Now, some people, they don't,
That's true.
they're like, I love being in the back of the plane, and that's cool. That's great.
You know something, Michael, that I can relate to you, because I live in Kuala Lumpur. So where I grew up is about 3 hours. So when I go back, I take a flight because it's across the sea. I can't drive back home. But then, so before, over the years, I've been in Kuala Lumpur for about 15 years. And it's about, normally, this is what I would say, debate I have with my parents, because, I came here to study and I came here to work. And then I've only gone back at least on average once or twice a year. So now I made it to the States, right? So in the States, from Kuala Lumpur to the States, that's like a 21-hour flight, like with layovers and those things. And when I bought the ticket, it was so my ticket back home, it's about, I don't know, about $100, and then to the US it's about 800, 900, the cheapest, right? And right now that I've tasted it, like in the long haul flights and whatnot, US is the longest that I've been on the flight. So now whenever I see like recommendations online from the domestic airline travels, I'm like, I'm not even gonna look that. I'm gonna look at the US only, like across like the most, because I've tried it and I don't really wanna like crack my head about, having to, do I spend $100 or do I just wait until it's the off-peak season? Because right now it's my priorities. And to be honest, I'm putting out there that I'm actually planning to relocate now that I've gone there. And yeah, I haven't looked back to that. I mean, even though I've only been back 5 days, but I love it.
Oh, it's one of those things where nothing wrong with spoiling yourself and pampering yourself. I know some people think, well, yeah, it's a lot of money, but you know what? To the exercise we talked about before, it's like all these monthly subscriptions and things that you're buying that you're not really using. Start say, you know what? Instead of that, I'm going to get a certain percentage of my revenue, whether you're working for somebody or you're running your own business. You just literally divvy up your revenue coming in and allocate it to different things. Just like you say, okay, a certain percentage of my revenue has to go towards housing or towards food or towards transportation, the basic kind of stuff. It's like, okay, that's that's going to be the case. Well, the same thing as with everything else. You can allocate, all right, I'm going to take 5% or 10%, and I'm going to put it into this separate account. And you can do that and just have it automatically go in there. So that way, it's like, I'm going to save for a new phone, for example. And I've done this, where it's like, okay, I'm just carving away $50 a month or whatever. And after a year or so, then, the accountant, tells me, okay, you've got enough in here to be able to buy the new phone. And I look, I'm like, compared to,
And then you think about it again, when that moment comes,
leave it,
do I really need it? Yeah.
or I'll transfer that money into a short-term investment or something, get a little extra interest out of it, and then, okay, fine, I can do that or allocate somewhere else. But that way, when comes that the new phone is out, I can buy it, and as I've demonstrated, I tend to keep my phones a longer time, so it's a longer term investment. Yes, it's a big outlay of currency units at one moment, because I know a lot of people, especially in North America, they do a plan where they get the phone, quote unquote, for free, and
For 3 years.
yeah, for 3 years, and they're paying an extra 20 or $30 a month or whatever it happens to be. For me, it's like, what is, from a cash flow standpoint, that makes sense. But on the other side, it's like, no, I want to buy this phone outright. Then that way, if I decide to switch carriers, which I don't tend to do very often,
And you're not
tied.
You're not penalized for it.
Exactly. And try to do. And and it doesn't have to be for a phone. It can be for a vacation. It can be for a thing where, once a quarter or once a month, you go out and have a big, brunch or whatever with a bunch of your friends. Allocating money then that way, when you go there, you don't have to go, okay, which account do I use? Well, you account for that. And it's again, these are different things that people can try. For me, it's worked out great because I don't have to think about it, or so, okay, well, if I do this, then what do I have to do that? I don't want to have to think that way. That's stressful. Just set it up. It's kind of set it and forget it in a way where you're just like, it's just going to automatically go in there. Again, when you do that, there's a lot of the financial stress when opportunities come up. Maybe a last minute trip. Someone says, hey, I'm going to L. Would love for you to go. I'll take care of the hotel room, but I just need you to buy the airfare for yourself. And if you've got, money in a certain accessible to be able to do that, then you can say, that sounds like a great idea. Let's go. And
I really needed to get away anyway. So
so it works out great. And, those opportunities, that's why for a rainy day, I say save for, a sun-filled or vacation or relaxing day. When it's raining, don't just relax, or, listen to the rain. It's very soothing, by the way.
Oh, I love it. During I would say my healing journey at the time, after my burnout, I had to have at least that 8-hour black screen raining music sound background for me to sleep.
Yeah, it's
very therapeutic.
It's a reminder of, and every day I usually go for some type of a nature walk. I'm very fortunate that I've got nature trails around me wherever.
Oh yeah, and Canada,
and even when I'm in San Diego as well, there's just absolute ton of things. I mean, there's the Pacific Ocean. Okay, that's and relaxing as well, and the nature trails and mountain hiking and all of the fun stuff. There's just a way to get away from technology, the noise, and all of that, and just yourself of, you know, how big we are in the world and how tiny we are.
To nature.
It just lets you to be.
It humbles you.
Yeah, and it helps you be present, because when you're hiking or through nature, you want to be present, because there are things in nature that some issues if you're not paying attention. So it'll be present, and I think that's the one thing that a lot of people struggle with is they're not present. They're worrying about what could happen, which probably won't, or
and they will manifest that for sure.
Or
99% of the time.
Themselves up for a decision that they made 12 years ago.
12 years.
And gone. Why are you rehashing that? And it's like, it's over. We're here right now. And that's the only place we can be, is literally right here, right now. And that's where we are. And yes, we can make some decisions and choices that can impact what our future could look like, but we're not in the future yet. But you can steer things in a certain direction. So, where are you going to steer? Are you going to steer to someplace that's great and fun and you enjoy life, or worrying and saying potentially bad things? Don't worry about those. Well, okay, what can you do to change it? And that's a question you can ask yourself. Okay, if I'm worried about this, what can I do right now that could impact that or reduce the likelihood of that? Push it out and start doing those things.
Now you've come a long way. You've done a lot of work on yourself and people that have gone through
And it was important for me to do so. I mean, I easily could have said, you know what, I survived all those things and just continued down the path that I was living, and my hunt probably wouldn't be living. I could be wrong, but I can't imagine down the path that I was going down and still be around. That likely. So I'm thankful that I decided to make the decision of, now let's again, and let's approach something a little bit differently. And it's been a pleasure for me.
I love that. So, Michael, wow, we 34 minutes in and we talk about a lot of things. So, I want to take the listeners back to boundaries. You mentioned that boundary. So, what are boundaries and why is it important? How should one set their boundaries? Becoming a podcast host was a natural extension of my second act. And after spending 15 years in the corporate world, I've transitioned to helping individuals overcome challenges like navigating tough relationships, career burnout, and aligning their mission with their soul's calling. By certifying as an RTT hypnotherapist and a lifestyle coach, I've made it my mission to empower people to recreate the life they deserve, and building a supportive community through my podcast. Now, let me ask, are you facing challenges like struggling to reprogram your mind to attract wealth, weight issues that feel like a constant yo-yo, insomnia or restless nights from daily worries, or just a lack of confidence in public speaking? If the answer is yes, visit www.thenierrasholisticlifestyle.com and grab a free hypnosis audio of these common struggles. It's a sneak peek into how my coaching works. Are you feeling shy? Don't be, because I'm as real as it gets. Let's connect on Instagram and LinkedIn and start your transformation today.
Down to what's important to you, from when you work and when you don't. And that goes into having an understanding of when you're productive. What are your productive days and hours and times of your day? And a lot of people don't even know that, because they've never documented, they've never analyzed it. So that's where journaling, whether it's a food journal or an energy journal or just tasks that they're doing, because for me, this is something that I discovered many, many years ago, that the morning for me tends to be better for doing action items, productivity, analyzing spreadsheets. When I was doing a lot of that work, writing, all those things, I'm much better versed doing that early in the morning. And now a lot of people that you don't ask them to do that because they just they can't. It's not because I haven't had my coffee or no, they literally, the way that they are,
Their makeup is
their
different.
makeup is different. We during the pandemic where a lot of people discovered that they were extremely productive in their evening, where a lot of people would go to work 9 to 5 type of thing, and they're dragging through the day, and that's not their most productive hours. So working later at night, they were able to produce a lot more. It was top-notch quality, and they did it in less time. So organizations that were able to, okay, well, that do your work. We'll adjust your time, and it'll, a lot of work on that as far as hybrid versus in person versus fully remote. There's still a tug of war going on, I think. That's how the media is portraying it. I think organizations just need to look and see what's for all the stakeholders, the organization, the employees, the customers, figure out a way. They can't say that remote work doesn't work because we did it.
We survived.
That cat is out of the bag. That cat shredded that bag. So saying, oh, we can't work remote. We're seeing organizations do that. I'm not going to mention any of them. Big online sell things. And they're, starting, the beginning of next year, they're requiring all of their office people to be in office 5 days a week. And
oh, yeah. I heard that. Yeah.
A lot of people are for other work. They're like, no, I'm not going to do that. Not in those meetings. I don't know their thinking, but having worked with workplaces for a long time, a roundabout way for the organization to their workload or reduce their staffing, wiring them or laying them off and having to pay severance and things like this. If you make the environment such where the employees don't want to work there, they will self-select and they will leave. And that's a roundabout way of reducing headcount. And it's the reality of it.
Do you think that's the agenda?
I think that could be an element of it. Again, not knowing it, not being a part of that organization. But I think that they're, they look at it and say
another exodus.
And that's well, what do you think is best? It's like I don't have a best as far as work is concerned. I think organization is different, and also individuals. I know people that on being in person at an office.
Yeah.
That they need that. They need it for their own well-being. They need it for their engagement with people and sanity. And I know people that ever want to set foot in an office again. Ever.
I don't want to commute.
They don't want to be in there. Yeah. They don't want to be in there. And a lot of people say because they're introverted or extroverted. Well, that example, I know 2 people that I used to work with. One is extremely introverted, and one is extremely extroverted. So, types are, the extrovert is the one that wants to be in the office all the time. Nope. He is thrilled that he doesn't go into an office. Introvert who is, kind of shy and all that stuff. No, he needs people. Yes. I first saw that, I'm like, my brain kind of went, that doesn't make sense. But then knowing them, like, okay, now I connected the dots. Okay, now I know why. And I get it. Long story short, I think people in time, this will hopefully harmonize out, but there'll be organizations that want their people in all the time. And there are people that want to work in environments like that. So those are the people that should be going to work for those organizations. And the people that are in organizations that are fully remote, well, harmonize those. And there's ownership involved. I think employees need to want to work remote all the time. Reason why is it because you're a caregiver, you have kids, it's more convenient, things like that. That's fine. I'm not judging or saying this or that, whatever works for people. But my hope is that there should be enough options for everybody to be able to choose the flavor of work that they want to work.
Yeah. And not sacrifice their quality of life. Wow. Okay. Michael, of all the losses you experienced during those 369 days, which one was the worst to endure? Is that right?
A lot of people go, wait a minute, you had a heart attack that almost killed you.
Yeah. That was like...
You're home, you lost your job.
Let me see. That was a very, very nice car. You work hard for that car.
I mean, it was an SUV. It was, it was a family vehicle. Thankfully, we had
Okay.
another vehicle that was paid off.
Okay,
So we
that's
weren't
second.
we weren't carless. Family of five, it was a little rough, especially at
Right.
that particular time. I was in Toronto, and the family was about 4 hours away where we were living at.
Mm,
So I had to navigate not having a vehicle because I needed a vehicle to navigate where I was
right.
working. So plus was and people go, "Oh, was it because of the inconvenience?" And no, it was one situation where that happened, and car was repossessed. I was in Toronto. The family was back in the area we were in, and I wasn't there to help navigate that. I wasn't there to far away, and it bothered me. That of all the things, I'm not saying that the other things didn't bother me, but that one stuck with me for a while. That one hurt. There could have done anything to prevent it. Bank was taking the vehicle, but thankfully, a peace transition. And I would have been, you know, helpful. I would have been okay. Here's the keys. They're just doing the job. The person that came and grabbed the vehicle and towed it away. They're just doing a job. It wasn't personal. They didn't wake up that morning going, okay, who can
Oh, I need to take Michael's car.
boost his car.
Yeah.
Now there might be
Yeah.
there might be people now that want to take my car, but here's a spoiler alert. I live in this wonderful area, in both areas that I spend time in, where public transit is really, really awesome. So I own a car. So can't take what I don't have. Choice. I mean, I can easily have a vehicle, but it would sit in a parking lot. Probably.
Wait, right now?
I don't own a car.
Wow. I'm about to sell off my car too.
One.
I mean, this.
Fortunate because San Diego has a decent transit system. Toronto has.
Oh, San Diego. I really wanted to visit San Diego. It's okay. I will go.
Please do it. Let me know when you go there.
Yay! I will for sure.
I've been fortunate, other than Detroit, where I was originally from. I worked in for several years. Amazing transit. I've always been in areas that had decent transit, so I just use it. It's like, why have a car payment? Why have the insurance? Why, and people
Oh
are like,
yeah,
well, I need
that's
a
so
car.
true, right?
Still
Yeah.
get a 24-hour day.
Time
How
for me to
often?
sell off. This is the.
Yeah.
I know this is the sign from the universe, Nicolette. Go and sell your car already.
But it out, calculate how much it'll cost for transit or for, car ride shares or things like that. And for me, it was an easy calculation. Going, okay, how often do I utilize those other services? Okay, and
To be honest, Michael, that's the biggest chunk of my expenses right now. The lease on that, the installment. So I mean, and I just left my 9 to 5. So any sensible person, that should be the first thing that's out. But because that was my prized possession, it's a car that I worked hard for. It's my second car that I got, a luxury car. So it's like that's that pride. But then it's time. I mean, I've had the car for 5 years now, so I think it's time for me to let go. And I still have 4 more years to go, but I don't need to wait for me to finish and then for me to let it go. And now that I have made my trip, I've seen some parts of the world, and I say, okay, you want to relocate? You got to make your, what are your priorities?
that changes over time, and that's great. It does change over time. You just, what works for me now, what worked for me then may not work for me
Mhm.
now, and give yourself the permission to make those adjustments in life. And in many cases, getting rid of a vehicle is not an easy choice, or may not even be a choice for a lot of people based on where they work, where they live, and all of that. But it's something that people can explore, and what makes sense for them. How to say don't buy cars, especially
Yeah.
coming from Detroit. That's not something that I would necessarily say, because it would harm a whole lot of people that I still know. But not just Detroit, but all over the world. Where autos are built and made. It's a big economic driver for a lot of people. But ultimately, it's just figure out where you're spending your money, and if you want to be able to do other things, then you figure out, okay, how do I make that happen? Could be a side gig, could be
Right.
additional expertise so you get a salary increase. It could be reallocating how you spend your money on certain things. It's be a diff exercise, but it's something where it's like, okay, is this really important? If I do this, what do I want? What do I need to do to make it happen? And you just connect the dots and you do it. And easy? Probably not. But can you do it? Of course you can. We've done it. Everybody can do it.
Yeah.
It's not just to the limited few. No, everybody can do it. They just put time and effort and their heart and soul into it, and things will happen.
I love that. I love this conversation. Thank you so much, Michael. Okay, a few more questions and then I can let you go. So, what work are you most proud of so far?
Very good question. After myself and helping myself beat burnout, desire others, and whether it's just a book or blog post or podcast episode or conversation, just to people, because I know I don't like burnout. I despise it. Many things, but I do hate burnout because I know what it does
Likewise, same.
to people. It robs people of their well-being. It robs society of great things because you take all the great innovators and the people that have created all the things that we use today, even, the people that created this platform that we're talking on today. If they were burned out and they didn't launch this, well, yeah, there's other options. But what if those people burned out? Then all of a sudden, we're not having this conversation on a video call because the technology wouldn't exist. And what's happening is when people are burning out, that they have in their mind to create that could make life better or easier for people may not see the light of day because they're too burned out or fatigued to even take steps to push it forward. So I'm proud of just being a strong advocate for helping people and organizations get past burnout so they can be their best self. And when they're the best self, we as a society benefit from it.
Yes, 1000%. Yay! What are you working on currently?
Just keeping up with the show and been doing it since 2017. So coming up on a big anniversary in February, 8 years. I'm loving that.
Woo!
A lot of article writing on the Breakfast Leadership site. There's releasing articles pretty much every day. So those are two areas that I'm doing. Playing a lot with different technologies, a lot of the AI stuff, looking at it, going,
Yeah.
okay, what? And I'm looking at it from okay, how can I this and come up with some solutions for people that can help them with the workloads and all of that kind of stuff in a way that can help them prevent burnout, and leveraging technology to ease pain a little bit and streamline and offload a lot of the responsibilities, especially entrepreneurs working so many hours. I think it ought to be said for it. I know a lot of people are afraid of it. They're afraid they're going to lose all the jobs. That's a human thing. We've been afraid of losing jobs forever. It's like, oh, they made cars. Oh no, the horseshoe makers aren't going to be able to work anymore. What are they going to do? Well, they found work to do. There's other things to do. There'll always be opportunities to create and provide and resources and products for consumers. So you may have to learn new skills, but guess what? That's actually good. It's using your brain to learn new things, which you should do every day if at all possible.
Thank you. Now, Michael, we're going to pivot to a self-worth question because my podcast talks about self-worth. So can you share your personal experiences or stories of self-discovery and how it positively impacted your sense of self-worth? I think we did touch.
Yeah, definitely going back when I was doing the work of from my burnout and learning how to prevent it from ever happening again, because again, that was not a great year. So, okay, how do I prevent this? And discovery and thing that it came to me by intervention. It wasn't a conversation that I had with anybody per se, but when I was going through and trying to figure out, okay, what in the world just happened? Why did all these things happen? Why did that
Why me?
I didn't do why me. I more of a why did these things happen? I wasn't on myself saying I didn't deserve this, and yeah, I did because it was the world that I created, and I more of okay, why did these things happen, and what was my role in it? Blamed anybody? Didn't blame my former bosses. I didn't blame the banks. I didn't blame anybody, food restaurants or anybody. I wasn't blaming anyone on this. Like I was the common denominator in all of this. It was fun at that dance. So
Choosing.
what I did was I went back and I started reviewing my choices, decisions, beliefs, and all of that. But I approached it with a childlike curiosity instead of beating myself up. That year beat me up pretty good. I didn't need to, pile on anymore. So I thought, okay, let's pretend I'm a 3 or 4 year old version of me, and I'm going to ask questions like little children ask. And was curious. Myself up. I didn't get upset or mad. If I started to feel that, I'm like, okay, stop. Remember, this is an exercise where you're just trying to get understanding. Observe, but remain neutral on this. And it was such experience to rediscover why I was the way that I was, and the opportunity to say, okay, well, who do I want to be? What's important to me? And that can change. What was important to me, all those years ago. Now, and 10 years from now, they'll be different than they are right now. I'm guessing, maybe not as different, but maybe some differences. Because that's the beautiful thing about life is it has all kinds of different and twists and turns and actions. And that's how it should be. It shouldn't be just a straight line, boring. Here's this. I know a lot of people say they want
Black and
that.
white.
I don't want that. You eat tears if that was my life. I'm like, no, I don't. I need spice, variety and adventures and experiences. That's making this thing to be empty when it's finally done, as much as I can. But that as going back, really, really eye opening for me, and I'm thrilled that I did it.
So, what is your heart's wish, Mike?
It's my heart. What
What is your heart's greatest wish?
is eradicated from this planet? Big one. Condition, the human approach to things, create opportunities for burnout to thrive, and
Getting the latest iPhone, that means you're gonna doesn't mean that I don't mind working 2-3 jobs. It's to work myself to the bone just to get the latest things.
well, I have, I'm not bragging, but I have 2 phones because I have a U.S. number and a Canadian number, so I have 2 phones, and one is a 14 and one's an iPhone 11. Icons look the same, like and
It's literally identical.
maybe it's my OCD, but the home screen and all the icons of the apps, unless there's some different
Are
ones,
the same.
are the same. The background is different, and I did that intentional because if I didn't, I wouldn't know which phone I was on. So it's like, so one of them, well, both of them are a picture of, one of them is a picture of my wife. There's another one that's a picture of my wife and me. So I have both of them, so I know which phone it is. Because otherwise, and I've done that even with a different background, I'll be like doing this, I'm like, this app, how come these contacts are different? I'm like,
It's the other one.
different one. All right, put that one down, pick that one up. And so, yeah, I think that's, burnout, getting rid of,
Choose.
just get rid of burnout.
And make that,
Put me out of work, people. I want burnout to go away. Put me out of work.
Wow, okay. Thank you, Michael. So, Michael, the last question for you. If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience and to the audience listening in the world as your legacy, what would it be?
Choice. And a lot of people look at me and they go, I didn't choose to burn out. No, you didn't make the choice.
Choose
and
your
say,
lifestyle.
okay, in 2025, my New Year's resolution is I'm going to burn out. If you're thinking that, please seek therapy.
Yeah.
for all of us.
So, no, right?
Our choices, our decisions, our beliefs, our habits, generational things, all these ingredients throw into there, and depending on which way you turn will determine the direction you go. So our choices lead to our burnout. So we choose differently, using an Apple quote. Didn't mean to make this an Apple show, but he's Cupertino, please send money this way.
Both
Yeah.
Canada and Malaysia for our podcast. We're not asking for
I
us.
got Here's an Apple sticker. This was in something that I got. It was a Mac. I think it was
The Mac,
a MacBook.
that's
A
definitely
MacBook
the Mac.
that was acquired not too long ago. So I was like, where am I going to put those stickers? I'm like, I'm just gonna leave them here. So I was like, I just have to see that. So there, yeah, nice plug for our Cupertino fans. So.
Wow, that was a good one. Now, Michael, how can people reach out to you if they want to?
Best way to find me, just go to breakfastleadership.com. There'll be a pop-up that'll come up where you can get a free electronic copy of my book, Burnout Proof. Just give me your name and email, and we'll send you that. It's a quick read, and that's intentional because if you're burned out, here's 300 pages. No, it's under 100.
Thank you very much.
It's under 100 pages with the hope that people will go, I think I can do this, and you can skim it. It talks about burnout, the signs, how to get over it, and with some anecdotes and backstory. There's a section in there, kind of revisiting the 369 days or my year of worst case scenarios, just again to kind of connect the dots and share a story of burnout, what can happen. And again, I don't want anybody to ever go through anything like that. So it serves as a warning, but also a story of hope and redemption, of able to do a horrible period of time and come out of it. And in my situation, come out of it better. Again, I'd much rather not have gone through that, but I apparently needed to attend that class, and I did. Life is so much better now. So that's the best way to find me.
All right. Wow. And there you have it, guys. You heard it from the person himself, Michael Levitt. Now, before we close off, Michael, I would like to thank you personally for the work that you're doing for the world and for advancing every step of the way despite the challenges, creating trails for those that will come after you. And for our listeners, this has been that one podcast with that controversial name, You're Worthless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, if you find yourself thinking that you are worthless, you're probably not alone. But more importantly, ask yourself a level deeper. If I'm worthless, then why the heck am I here? And it is because your soul has chosen to be here energetically. That is all the way from the ethers. And for that reason itself, you are worthy and you are enough. This has been Michael Levitt, your guest of the day, and Nick Nierras, your host, signing off. Thank you so much, Michael, for your time.